Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. There is one huge issue when you deal with the Sith, and that is when the Sith have to deal with other Sith. This is an organization that is so obsessed with gaining power and control of everything around you that individuals in this school of thought will ultimately try to compete against each other and oftentimes take that competition to a very extreme place. In a group of Sith, there is no order, there is no stability, there is just a bunch of power-hungry individuals willing to do anything in order to win. This is why the Sith ultimately collapsed underneath the weight of their own successes. Whenever their enemies were defeated and it came time to divide the spoils of war, the Sith would start turning against one another. Because power at any cost is the only true thing these individuals believe in. Only when the Sith are driven back by a common enemy and forced to unite can they become a truly powerful organization. This is why the Rule of Two was created by Darth Bane. He saw the Sith constantly self-destruct. At the same time, he disliked the idea of weaker Sith banding together to overcome stronger Sith like himself. It did not allow nature to run its course and select the most powerful individuals for survival. But even the Rule of Two era was not without strife and competition. Succession in the Rule of Two era depended on the apprentice learning as much as possible from their master, and then one day turning against their master using those very same skills they just had learned. If anything, it was expected for a Sith apprentice to make moves on his master, otherwise that Sith apprentice would be deemed a weakling. Today I want to take a look at one of the more interesting Sith characters during the Clone Wars period, Count Dooku, aka Darth Tyrannus. He played a huge role in the Clone Wars, but ultimately he wasn't his master's first choice as apprentice. Darth Sidious had his eyes set on Anakin Skywalker from the very beginning. Was Darth Sidious correct in assuming that Count Dooku was too weak to be his true apprentice? Did Dooku actually want to betray Palpatine and take over his position? When Obi-Wan Kenobi gets caught snooping around the droid factory on Geonosis, it's pretty awkward. No one really understands how Kenobi could have gotten there in the first place. He followed a dart he found from an assassin on Coruscant all the way to Kamino, and then he survived 2 deadly encounters with the Fets and somehow made it to the secret Confederate foundries preparing for war against the Republic on Geonosis. This was awkward for the Separatist leaders and Count Dooku simply because they weren't quite ready yet to engage the Republic in open warfare. But now that the Jedi have discovered their operation, it meant that they had to either kill Obi-Wan Kenobi or he was going to return back to the Republic and report about what he found. Count Dooku tries a different approach. He sees this as a perfect opportunity to recruit Obi-Wan Kenobi to his own cause. You see, Obi-Wan Kenobi's master was Qui-Gon Jinn, and Qui-Gon Jinn was once Count Dooku's apprentice. Count Dooku, up until this point, was seen as a respected Jedi who decided to leave and return back to his ancestral home of Serrano in order to govern. So there's no real bad blood between Count Dooku and the Jedi Order. Now, do you guys remember when Padme attempts to accuse Count Dooku of being the one behind her assassination? Well, this is how the Jedi responded.
He is a political idealist, not a murderer.
You know, milady, Count Dooku was once a Jedi. He couldn't assassinate anyone. It's not in his character.
Mace Windu then casually suggests that Padme perhaps did something to deserve this assassination attempt. Maybe it was something that she wore. Meanwhile, he completely ignores this very thinly veiled threat from Master Yoda.
In grave danger, you are.
So yeah, the point is the Jedi viewed Dooku as a good individual, and they could not believe what he was about to do. The only problem is Obi-Wan Kenobi did overhear the good Count talking about hiring an assassin. Our guy knows that Dooku stinks and is knee-deep in this plot. But still, Count Dooku attempts to turn Obi-Wan Kenobi to his side. After all, the younger Jedi is suspended in a stasis field and he can't really go anywhere, so he has to listen to him. Dooku first tries to connect with Obi-Wan by using their shared connection to Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon always spoke very highly of you. I wish you were still alive. I could use his help right now.
Dooku then lets Obi-Wan in on his secret. You see, the Republic is actually being controlled by a Dark Lord of the Sith. His name is Darth Sidious, and without basically Obi-Wan Kenobi's help, Count Dooku will not be able to overthrow him and bring peace and stability to the galaxy, yada yada. This is an interesting move on Dooku's part, but it's also a relatively safe move. He probably views Obi-Wan Kenobi as completely expendable by this point. Dooku has the ability to kill Obi-Wan at any moment. He also knows that the Jedi doesn't really trust him, so everything he says right here will probably be taken as a lie, even though he basically is telling the truth. When Dooku asks Obi-Wan Kenobi to join his side so that they can both try to overthrow Palpatine together, I actually think he's pretty serious about this request. He believed that the galaxy's existing order needed to be collapsed. He had, after all, left the Jedi Order because he was disgusted by their association with the very corrupt Republic and how political the Jedi Order had become as an organization. He basically returns to Serrano in order to govern. It's a small little step towards his ultimate goal of ruling the galaxy, I guess. As a young Jedi, Dooku was one of the most talented individuals in his class. He was especially good at telekinesis and could even rival the older students. Some might attribute this to his noble birth or, good genes, but no matter what it was, it eventually did get to Count Dooku's head and he became pretty arrogant, and he would have to work on tempering his ego for most of his career within the Jedi. That's not to say that Dooku was an evil or bad person. As a Jedi, he would constantly try to improve himself. But as Dooku became older and older, his independent mind and confidence in himself made him realize that the Jedi were in fact corrupt and involved in too much of the politics that basically corrupted the Republic as well. It also didn't help that Count Dooku's closest friend Sidious was having terrible visions of the future of the Republic that involved war, collapse, famine, and destruction. As the Jedi Order became more and more involved with all of the Republic's issues in the Outer Rim, Count Dooku finally decided to leave the Jedi Order. It's around this time that Count Dooku would be approached by Darth Sidious. The Sith Lord was good at reading people and understanding what they wanted. Dooku had a desire for power so that he could eliminate the corruption that plagued the Republic. Darth Sidious was also a master in manipulation and misleading people with his words, which made him an excellent salesperson for the dark side. Dooku bought into Palpatine's plan. He would assist the Dark Lord in the creation of the clone army and serve as the leader for the Separatist Alliance. Palpatine giving Dooku all of these powers and responsibilities also gives Dooku plenty of opportunities to betray the Dark Lord and basically take over the galaxy. With control over how the clone army was being made, he could have installed his own order protocols that could have been used to overthrow Palpatine immediately after they overthrow the Jedi. Also, in the very first few years of the war, the Separatist Alliance completely outnumbered the Republic military. At Geonosis, the entirety of both armies met. The Separatist Alliance had more than 5 million droids, many of which escaped the battle, whereas the Grand Army of the Republic only had around 200,000 clones. It's actually well documented in the legends that clone commandos with access to enemy troop numbers and their own troop numbers were extremely confused why the Separatist Alliance didn't just end the war with one large offensive, because they clearly could have. As mentioned before, the discovery of the droid foundry sprung the Sith's plan into action far too quickly. But it wasn't the Separatists who weren't prepared, it was the Jedi and the Republic who were behind. They had not even met their own custom clone army by this point. Even when Dooku began training his own apprentice like Asajj Ventress, he was more than willing to listen to his master's orders to discard the assassin. Perhaps Dooku feared Palpatine, perhaps he never really had the heart to overthrow him. After all, Count Dooku was an old man far beyond his prime, and even when he finally trained Savage Opress and tells him the following,
We will be even more powerful than Lord Sidious. We shall rule the galaxy together, my apprentice.
I just really don't buy into what Count Dooku is saying at this point anymore. It also doesn't help that in the next episode, Savage turns on Count Dooku immediately and tries to kill him. Either Count Dooku is really poor at judging people's characters, or he basically says this line to every potential prospect and apprentice that he meets, aka this is all just nonsense. Ultimately, Count Dooku neither had the will, strength, or energy to really take on someone like Darth Sidious. I believe any attempts to betray his master were half-hearted and not serious. Dooku, after all, was in command of the entire Confederacy of the Independent Systems and could have carved out his own empire very easily, but he chose not to. So there you have it, guys. Those are my thoughts about Count Dooku. Let me know in the comment section below whether you believe Count Dooku had the gall to basically overthrow Palpatine, or was he too scared? Anyway, guys, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below as well. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.